What is an adult problem that nobody prepared you for? Vegetables die too soon in the fridge. Don't get me started on those zacking bananas and their 18-hour clock. Put the veggies in a sealed container with a piece of paper towel on top of them. The paper towel absorbs moisture and you'll get several extra days before the veggies go bad. Food in general. I am only one man. Getting a decent variety in my fridge is a pain because it's all sold in larger quantities than I can use. So when I open a package of sausage links for breakfast, I have to use it almost every day until it's gone or it'll go off. Similar story with bread. Eat sandwiches almost every day or it gets moldy before I'm halfway through it. The incessant flow of bills, phone, water, electricity, insurance, rent/mortgage, also, college debt. Oh, and dental care. Kurt Vonnegut had it right when he said the trouble with getting older is you outlive your teeth. Even if you take perfect care of your teeth, every time you chew you're grinding your teeth together and a tiny bit gets worn off. If we ever figure out immortality, one of the side issues will be that around the age of 100 you'll need to go in and have all your teeth removed and implants installed. Aging parents. My defining moment of adulthood was standing in a room picking out my mother's casket. I was married with 2 kids by then, but this is the moment I truly felt like an adult. Becoming a caregiver for my mother and eventually having to settle 2 estates was something I wasn't prepared for. Wait, now I have to make sure you have food, I'm cleaning up after you, doing your laundry, etc. Not sure how you prep for the parenting role to reverse over time, but it can happen. I intellectually knew my parents were aging, but I recently walked face first into something that made me actually face it. My dad has always organized his garage to within an inch of its life. I went into his garage the other day and it was a disaster. I knew he had been diagnosed with some dementia, but I didn't see it until I actually saw it. My dad died. No one preps you for that. It's crazy how you grow up thinking they're your world, and then life goes on. This one has really hit me several times in the last decade or so. Just looking at your folks and being struck by how much they now look like your grandparents used to. After losing my father at 61 to a sudden heart attack, I am terrified every time my mom has any kind of minor health problem. She's 63, overweight, and on basically every medication in the world. I can't describe to you how much mental capacity I reserve for the dread of something happening to her. Realizing that is really terrifying. When to call a repairman and when you can amateurly fix it yourself. When to know a tradesman, plumber, auto mechanic, dentist, etc., is scamming you or actually doing their job. You want to give them the professional benefit of the doubt too, but it happens all the time. Do I really have to be a Renaissance man in order to properly vet someone to do what they say they're gonna do? How much time you spend just doing stuff. Oh, need to replace my tire and that's over by the store, so while I replace the tire I can do some errands and I'll save time and be home in no time. 3 hours later, okay, just one more errand before I head home. Also, how putting off a small task just a couple days in a row can quickly amount to a longer chore/responsibility later. I can just leave this in the sink, get to it later before bed. 2 days. Why is this grime caked onto this plate still? I've been scrubbing for 10 minutes straight. And when you have free time to do something fun, you're too mentally exhausted from doing all the things you have to do that you waste free time half watching TV and half scrolling through Reddit. Being sick and having to care for yourself. Like when you were younger, your parents would get the medicine, or the medicine cabinet would just be stocked all the time, etc. But here I am with a cold, having to build up the energy to go to the supermarket to buy some aspirin and throat lozenges all by myself. The endless cleaning. I had chores when I was a kid, but I had zero clue how much actual work went into keeping house. I cleaned my house this morning and by midweek it'll be a war zone of pet hair, crumbs, and dust. I don't even have kids. WTF, it's like the underpants gnomes show up when I'm asleep and zuck my house up. When I was a kid I thought people who hired maids were lazy, but I understand now. If I had the money I would hire a maid. My kitchen sink only stays clean for a couple of hours, then it's full of dirty dishes again. It's so frustrating how a completely clean kitchen only stays that way for like half a day. It's a never-ending mess in there. Upvote solely for underpants gnomes. But yeah, it's crazy to think how dirty your house gets when you're not even there half the time. A lack of community. Growing up you have your elementary school. Each day you see your friends and participate in activities together. Sometimes they move away and sometimes you do, but it largely stays the same through high school and middle school. Flash forward to adulthood and you're just alone. You want to make friends IRL, but have no idea how to go about doing it without seeming creepy, desperate, or God knows what. This is really hard when you are not overtly religious, so you cannot join a religious community. My friend and I talk about this from time to time. It's arguably the hardest thing to deal with in life. It gets worse the longer you live, as you know you are outliving your generation. It's so incredibly difficult to make friends as an adult, especially if you dislike your coworkers and are not religious. How in the hell do you meet people? My grandma wasn't religious, she went to church just to meet people. She had an amazing social circle because of it. The most social older ladies I know do extracurriculars. My aunt is in a choir and my neighbor sails competitively. It helps a lot. You telling me I gotta make food every day? Often multiple times a day just to stay alive? I've been putting off going to the grocery store to get some ingredients all week, because I'm a lazy Zach and I live out in the country. I heard a piece of a radio show on the future/past/how things have evolved when it comes to sustenance/feeding ourselves. How women in the late 1800s used to spend 8 hours a day just cooking, and I thought, holy no. No no no. Not to mention when you're in the store and none of the food sounds good, so you have to debate whether you should just go home and starve until something does. What? You kids want to eat again? I just fed you yesterday. Making important life decisions. When you're young you have a safety net, but when you're an adult you're taking on risk that can influence successive years of your life. Same goes for single versus family. It was a small thing, but today I called my dad to tell him I left a business that was tearing me down, and his response was, "I'm so proud of you for sticking up for yourself and leaving a bad situation." He has always been the one to tell me this is bad, but it's your decision, and I'm proud of myself too for leaving that place. Falling into the belief that being miserable at current job is more logical than shooting for something fulfilling because risking unpaid bills takes priority. You have to keep in mind the realities of your profession and your specialty. If the people in the job you hate are well off, while the people in your specialty, the one you want to shoot for, are unemployed, may want to not shoot the shot. Starving artists and failed rock stars come to mind. Your family can at times make mistakes and decisions that affect you as well. In this case you're referring to the capability to make sound decisions, and I suffer from that too from time to time. It's so hard to find a good second opinion elsewhere. Just wanted to write this. I have to make important decisions that will affect not only my life in a fundamental way, but also that of my wife and children. The worst part, nobody's going to tell me if it was a good decision or bad. I won't know all the facts for years, if ever. I'm 22 and I had this realization like 2 weeks ago. I quit a contracting job that didn't seem like it was going to turn into a FTE position like they had said. Instead of sticking around in a temporary position, I ended up receiving an offer for some other opportunity I had interviewed for. On my last day of my contractor position, I had this thought. I just made a huge decision to leave a job and transition to a completely new company and position all on my own, and I am making my own life path. It is crazy having that first independent experience of your young adult life. Growing up, I had no safety net at any time. That really influenced my decision-making at all points, and I saw many friends succeed because they could take a gamble on something. It worked out in the end, but for most, it doesn't. God, I feel this. When I was in community college to save a buck on my bachelor's, I remember someone who I knew that came from a wealthy family who was just swapping majors like it was nothing. Meanwhile, anytime I had to take a risk, it was like playing Jenga with my life. I feel like I can relate to this. My mechanisms originate almost entirely from reading books on various subjects at an early age, so guess I had an advantage of having more time to develop robust systems to help me. You're absolutely right though, too many get left behind, some for obvious reasons but most because of the current human condition.